strategy. It could be looking at a middle path, or so it seemed from yesterday's press conference. The centre indicated it may be willing to let some of the states which are interested in going against the consent clause and the social impact clause take those amendments, and they will give consent. The centre will give consent for those amendments to state laws, but perhaps they will not change the central law itself, given the opposition in the Rajya Sabha and the fact that the committee itself is asking for more time. Now, is this a good strategy to backpedal and allow some states to go ahead? Let's first hear it from some of the MPs themselves, the BJD MP Jai Panda and some others, and then we have Sunil Jain of Financial Express and MK Venu of Amar Ujala Group to discuss the matter.
We have to find a solution. Perhaps the central government can look at ways and means of amending the existing Land Act such that it gives the freedom to individual states to further have their own versions of it. And they each have to find their own balance between equity for citizens as well as faster economic growth. So I think some amendment will have to be looked at in order to facilitate a state-wise land law for the country. I don't get the sense that they have put anything in the deep freezer, but obviously they will have to. The government will have to prioritize. It cannot have its entire wish list dealt with by any session of Parliament.
Okay, that seemed a kind interpretation of what the government has done. We will have to still wait and see whether they will repromulgate the ordinance at all. Let's get Sunil Jain and MK Venu into the conversation. Sunil, from the point of view of economy and industry, what does this mean? That some states will be able to go ahead and amend? Is that the impression you got? But the centre will just backpedal?
I think first off, it's very, very good news because frankly, even before the government had taken, had assumed power, Arun Shourie had explained to Financial Express that under Article 245, a lot of contentious issues which are also the purview of the state can actually be dealt with by the state, which is what has happened in the case of labour. Oh. And one normally presumes that the central government would have done the same in the case of land. So, the reason why the central government had to make a big thing out of it, I think it was a mistake, but the reason why probably they had to say that they wanted to amend the land laws was that, if you remember, the railway minister as well as Nitin Gadkari, in their respective field had said that in the last 1 year, very little land acquisition has taken place either for roads or for railways. So I think they needed to, kind of give a kickstart to that. But other than that, it always made sense to leave this to the states for a very simple reason. That the land bill is what gave this government the Soot Boot Ki Sarkar tag, if you will. It is that tag which has prevented the government from taking many right decisions such as increasing gas prices, or privatization. So the government is running scared because of that, so-called, pro-rich tag. So if not bringing in the land bill allows them to get rid of that tag, it's very good news. And in any case, there will always be a few progressive states which will change their land laws. Rajasthan is actually ready because the select committee report has come out. The select committee report has gone along. It is exactly what the government has said. The only thing they want is a slightly higher compensation which can easily be put in. So you've got states which are ready to do the right thing, and I think that's the way to go because, at the end of the day, you put industry on states. You don't put in the center. So the central government changing the law anyway made no sense. So I think this is very good news. It's very pragmatic. And I think the market should be up if the market goes by economic signals.
Yes, the market is up quite a bit for a variety of reasons. This may be one of it. But, although it may be a pragmatic thing to do, there are many segments that are exempt from this category. So there's roads, railways that fall under the exempt category. So won't there be a bit of chaos if states are allowed to, given the freedom to decide? Mr. Venu, what is your own view on this?
Actually, Sonia, I don't think states will have unfettered kind of freedom to do whatever they want. I guess what will happen is there will be a central law which will act as a foundational, base case. And the states subsequently may be allowed to, or states will improve upon it. In the sense they could, for instance, they could pass some amendments seeking to, expand the scope of public purpose for which the government would want to, for instance, if they're building a smart city or some rural infrastructure, as Mr. Jaitley says, or irrigation project. and that amendment can maybe brought to the president for his assent, as had happened in the case of labour reforms, some labour amendment from Rajasthan. So it will be a combination of central law and a state law, which may add some amendments based on their specific requirements. Now, this makes sense because at least the heat is off Mr. Modi and Mr. Jaitley at the centre, and they could focus on more critical issues which the centre is supposed to deal with, like the GST bill. In fact, I personally feel so much political capital has been expended on the land bill, and if in the monsoon, if in the budget session, in the last two sessions, if they had focused on GST, they might have gotten it through. They unnecessarily riled the opposition in Congress, which resulted in their taking a rigid stand on GST itself. So tactically it was a mistake, and now the BJP has realized the mistake. I wish they had realized this 6 months ago. That's my only point.
Okay. Well, actually, to be fair, I too got some sourced information from the Rural Development Ministry and the Finance Ministry and some political forces, and their point was that they did advise the Finance Ministry bigwigs, Minister himself, not to go ahead with this. The states will themselves ask, give us some leeway. Many states will say we want to amend our own laws to our advantage, and they will need presidential and central government assent when it negates the central law. When it goes against the central law, you will give them permission, and when more and more states go against the central law, you can then think of amending it. Don't do it now. But there were people, bigwigs in the NDA and in the Finance Ministry, who wanted to create a dhamaka and pass the land bill and prove a point, which apparently is not working out now. Sunil, therefore, what do you think will be the perception? Will there be a foreign investor and India Inc. perception that the BJP has not kept its big promise that it will, clear this law and make India more easy for industrialization and for Make in India? Or will it be seen as bending down to populism ahead of the Bihar election you gave in? Could that interpretation come at all?
Well, I think you gave the answer yourself when you said that people there were some people in the government who wanted to create a dhamaka. Now, since you wanted to create a dhamaka and you set it up and you've not been able to pass it, obviously there will be a lot of people who will say that this is, a big setback. So I think the government, set itself up for a fall. There's no two ways about it. But hopefully people will be more mature enough to figure out, after the initial hue and cry, people will figure out that, listen, this is actually, as you said, stooping to conquer it. And if the state governments, if my view, frankly, that if in the monsoon session or around then you get one or two states actually coming out with their bills to the president. I mean, let's say, for example, Rajasthan, during the, when everybody's feeling depressed about the fact that this bill hasn't got through, and at that point, if Rajasthan's bill comes up to the president, and it gets, the assent which, Mr. Jaitley said they would give, or they would help the states get, I think that will blunt the edge of much of the criticism. So really the thing now is to get a few BJP states to quickly move in and do the right thing here.
Actually, that is the most important question, right? Whether the land bill will get passed in the monsoon session or not. Mr. Venu, what's your own view? I mean, given that the Congress has been posturing itself against the Modi government quite a bit in the recent past, and the fact that the Parliamentary Standing Committee has also sought an extension to the session, do you think that the bill will be moved to the back burner in this session?
I think it's getting moved to the back burner, Sonia. And politics, you must remember, Sonia, operates in a very non-linear way. Suddenly, until about 2-3 months ago, Congress seemed like a defeated party. But suddenly today, after the recent spate of scams, etc., they seem to have got fresh energy. I mean, they are rising from the ashes of 44 seats in Lok Sabha, and all these things will have an impact on the session itself. And number two, as Sunil Jain said, BJP has a good chance today to prove that that at least in their states, 50% of India's GDP, I guess, comes from the BJP states, and they are contiguous from Mumbai, Rajasthan, whatever, Madhya Pradesh to down. And if they can acquire land and do their amendments and demonstrate that indeed those projects are good for the people, because the narrative today, the debate today is whether it's good for industry or is it an industry-led sort of land appropriation project, or is it really good for the people? Now, this needs a demonstration effect. I think the BJP should demonstrated in the states that they are ruling. If that happens, I think things will come around. Otherwise, as far as the markets are concerned, Sonia, I don't think land bill and GST either will have a smooth passage. And these are the two legislations which all the FIIs that I speak to, they are really pinning their hopes on.
Okay. Well, Sunil, what happens to the ordinance actually? Will that be repromulgated, allowed to lapse? I mean, you said you spoke to Arun Shourie on the matter. Is that ordinance needed so that the states can, maneuver their own way, come to the centre where it violates, and the centre gives them an okay with presidential assent? Or if the ordinance is allowed to lapse, then will this leeway be available to the states? What happens to the ordinance?
Okay, firstly, this has nothing to do with the state governments. Whether they promulgate the ordinance or whether they don't re-promulgate it, the states will go ahead with their own acts. This has got nothing to do with them.
But they have to come to the centre for permission when they violate.
The central government will give it, so it's got nothing to do with the ordinance per se.
Okay.
So I'm saying that is an independent process. As far as the ordinance itself is concerned, to be honest, I don't know what will happen, but my belief is that you will have to re-promulgate the ordinance, because if you remember the original the original UPA Act gave a 1-year window from which these these areas like roads and all were outside the purview of the bill. Of the act. So if the government wants to keep acquiring land for railways, or if they want to acquire land for the for roadways for the National Highways Authority of India, they will have to re-promulgate the ordinance. So my bets are the ordinance will be re-promulgated, but it has nothing to do with the state governments at all. The state governments can do whatever they want, and the central government has virtually assured them. That's what Mr. Jaitley's statement made clear yesterday.
Yeah.
That you come up with your law and we'll talk to the president under, as you know, the president is a rubber stamp. So under Article 245(2), you will get a clearance. I don't think there's any two ways about it. And this goes very well with the overall narrative of the government of cooperative federalism, that the states will do their own thing. We will not. In fact, the odd thing is that things have come to this pass. Because, even right in the beginning, the Prime Minister kept saying that even if I do pass a bill, which you people don't like, the fact is that every state government is free to choose its own path. So, I don't know why, this whole thing was allowed to balloon into this sort of standoff, this big standoff, because even the Prime Minister said at that time. So clearly it's been very bad management on the BJP's part, and it's a good thing that they've finally figured that this is the way out. I think getting the states and the Niti Council, in the governing council of the Niti Aayog, to address this issue and then come out of it. So I think this is, if the government did bad political maneuvering at that time, I think they've done a very good job now of, of giving out the right message.
All right. We'll have to wait and see if the Congress makes capital out of it and how Bihar is impacted. Yes, Venu, you wanted to say something?
Lata, what I'm saying is they need not re-promulgate this ordinance now, let it lapse, and let the 2013 Act be a base case on which the states can bring amendments saying that, okay, the 2013 Act does not allow me to do this, so please allow me to do this via this amendment. It can be brought to the President. So the BJP can at the centre say we have not touched the Act which everybody passed in 2013, and at the same time states are amending it to suit the requirements. So therefore, it's a win-win at the centre and at the states. They can say the states are doing it, we are not doing it.
Okay.
So therefore, they won't re-promulgate the ordinance. That's what politically, I think they won't re-promulgate the ordinance.
Okay, and then people can make political capital out of that. We'll have to wait and see. Out of time, actually, Sunil, exactly, Venu, thank you very much for joining us. That was truly enlightening, and it is true that some states have been proactive, because yesterday Anil Swarup told us that they've acquired 2,000 hectares in the last 1 year to get coal mine clearances. So, they are working through the states rather than...
No, one thing is for sure, Lata, that the market has come to realize that these, decisions in the parliament, whether they're taken up or not, the market is not worried. There are a lot of things that the